it's an entertaining answer. Oh, we don't have slides yet. Oh, they cheated. All right. Well, we won't get the animations. So my starting question is, what happened in 2013? Change the mic? Oh, okay. All right. What happened in 2013? And what happened in 2013 that impacts IBC, impacts the Cosmoverse a lot, is my co-founder, Mark Miller, and another of our co-founders, Bill Tulla, our economist, published a paper called Distributed Electronic Rights in JavaScript. And that did two really important things. It showed how JavaScript could be used for DeFi and showed us what we needed to drive into the JavaScript standard for DeFi and for smart contracts. And it inspired the core architecture of IBC, right? It articulated the notion of independent sovereign machines, servers at the time, connected with secure protocols sending asynchronous messages in order to accomplish cross-machine finance. And this was presented at Financial Cryptography. Now, since then, of course, we got blockchain, and that, from our perspective, creates machines out of agreement rather than out of silicon, right? Out of consensus rather than hardware. But it's the same basic idea, and so IBC was inspired, and Zaki can tell that story better than I, so corner him on that. But that's a core element that led to both Agoric being involved with Cosmos and some of the key elements of the Cosmos architecture. Okay, so we need the animation. Can you get the PowerPoint up? Anyway, so there was a blockchain after this 2013 paper. You may have heard of it. It's called Ethereum. It's the most recent proof-of-stake chain out there. And what has it got, right? It's got Solidity programmers, programming smart contracts, programming decentralized finance. And there's approximately 5,000, 6,000 people that can do a decent job at it, right? So you can see that dot in the upper right. There are more lawyers in Medellin than there are programmers that can program DeFi in Solidity, right? There are more lawyers in Denver, there are more lawyers in, it's one of those things where there's just not enough to be able to take smart contracts and carry it out to the rest of the world. So Agoric was founded on the vision of taking smart contracts, this ability to enforce the relationships among strangers, a business contract kind of relationship among strangers, and making it a thing that could enable lots of strangers to cooperate with each other. And you're not going to do that with just a few thousand developers. And even if you go down to the number of web developers, number of Web3 developers, crypto blockchain developers, that's only, best estimate, 17,000, something like that. As opposed to, and this circle is to scale, the red circle is the number of JavaScript developers in the world, right? 17 million JavaScript developers. That's what we need in order to take, DAO, in order to take DeFi, in order to take NFT, in order to take governance, all these things, in order to take them out to the next generation, out to mainstream use cases, out to mainstream developers is the path we need. Okay, so that's important, but it's not just JavaScript, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, what is Agoric building? Okay, so we are a proof-of-stake chain using the build token, built on Cosmos SDK, using, of course, the battle-tested Tendermint consensus algorithm. Right? And it is a chain where the core focus, I'm getting another picture, right, is building contracts in hardened JavaScript. These are the features, the lockdown, the key elements that we identified in that paper from 2013, and have driven into the JavaScript standard since. And this is what has made JavaScript be the thing that secures trillions of dollars on brokerage terminals. It's the core to the next generation of MetaMask extensible wallet. It secures Cosm.js. It's in light bulbs. And it's, of course, in the core of our smart contract execution model. Okay. Now it'll take us back a ways, because just for entertainment value, I got to do this, right? 6,000 developers, right? 14,000 lawyers in Medellin, right? 18,000 web developers, and a whole lot more JavaScript developers, right? Thank you. So that's what we're building, is smart contracts, a platform for smart contracts in hardened JavaScript. But just like JavaScript was out there in browsers, and experts could do cool things, it's not about the language. There are other platforms that have tried to do the language, and they did not have the security elements we'd have. They did not have the ability to execute JavaScript deterministically like we do. There's a bunch of things they did not have that are essential. But the important thing that let JavaScript take over the world of application development is the frameworks, right? When React.js came out, or Vue.js, those are both architecturally frameworks to enable building applications. And the key thing they realized that they actually brought into the world is true object-oriented frameworks where you could grab components built by other people to combine them together into an application that could do more than you could program, right? Developers could now build on each other's shoulders. And so frameworks, the right kind of framework, enables innovation across a lot of skill levels and enables the exponential growth where developers are building on the contributions of other developers and making their own contributions back into the community. So NPM was how that happened at the system level, and React.js and Vue.js is how that happened at the user interface level. So we do the same thing, the same kind of OO framework that developers across the world are familiar with, but instead of the affordances being about mouse clicks and rendering, it's about pricing and negotiation and exchange, and is this the asset I actually wanted, and are you actually giving me what I need, right? And those are critical elements to get right. And it's clear that in lower-level programming languages, programmers do not get it right, to the tune of something like $9 billion in losses to battle test the relatively small number of contracts currently functioning and controlling vast amounts of money. So framework is important in order to enable the next generation of developers, and that's the primary thing and the primary architectural thing that JavaScript brings to the table. Okay, so we have a bunch of DeFi Legos. We have a bunch of Legos, not just for DeFi, the fungible and non-fungible tokens, semi-fungible tokens that one of our partners, Mainnet application partners, encourage us to use. Vaults for CDPs, pluggable governance components, liquidation, DeFi Legos, etc. I could go into a lot of them, but you've seen some of those in the other talks. We're going to talk about what's different now. So, first, and all of these, as familiar to JavaScript developers across the world, a new component is just a single JavaScript module that exports a start function, somewhere in there. I don't know if you can see the code, but it creates a NFT mint, and another line just mints 1,000 NFTs, right? This is the kind of thing where having the right level of library makes that stuff really easy, makes it come together really fast, and makes it safe to compose these elements. Okay, so what's happened is several projects out there have taken those components. In some cases, they've started with bounties and built something that they will be deploying to the full mainnet of Agoric when it's available. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Okay, so we'll start with LH2 staking. Now this is like liquid staking. Everyone's very excited about liquid staking, but they're very focused on a unique feature of helping decentralization in chain. So smart contract components using some of the things that we've built for other purposes to do effectively cross-chain liquid staking that can help to decentralize the staking of Agoric initially and then other chains eventually around not just geo-risk and jurisdictional risk, but which data centers are they in, or what other chains that we're working with do they align with, and those kinds of things. So having that, not just freeing up the investment value, but really helping secure the chain is a huge step forward. Calypso provides a dashboard using ICA, using interchain queries, to be able to roll up a portfolio and manage assets across multiple different chains over IBC. Agreewe is DAO tools. You heard a lot about DAO. Well, there's 14 million people that are going to need something like that, but they're going to program in JavaScript. And so this started with our governance Legos, voting components, what we use for governance of parameters, all those kinds of things. and now extends them and grows them so you can easily make subcommittees and change the voting strategies and that sort of stuff. So designed for small companies or small groups that want to get organized and do cross-chain agreement stuff. Crya does Creed, which I can almost never pronounce, which is an NFT creator. But it's an NFT creator that creates hierarchical NFTs, you know, gaming characters that instead of it being randomly generated for you, you can go buy an item and equip it, and now you've got a structural NFT where you can sell the combo, right? There's those libraries I talked about, the framework in Agoric has rich notions of property rights and the ability to extend them with this kind of hierarchical property. And then finally, NFT lending, Tribble, which is being able to lend out NFTs, again, using some of the DeFi Legos, or sorry, the NFT Legos we produced, and then enhancing them and adding more Legos to the pool for you all to build with. Okay, so one of the most exciting things to me is several of them are here. I see Crya over there. I think the others are in the back of the room. And they're putting on workshops. So right now, RL Labs is putting on a workshop about how do they do smart contracts in Agoric, right? And there will be other workshops here. You can see all of those. Sign up for them because the last time this happened, they were full. These are people that actually built stuff in the framework. They can tell you how it works. They can tell you why they're excited about going out onto Agoric Mainnet. And that will be available, that schedule's available out there. So pay attention to the workshops. This is the second tab. If you go look at the agenda, there's multiple tabs. Okay, so that's for when Agoric Mainnet is fully live for third-party contracts. There'll be a permission phase, and these are the ones that are sort of slotting in. There'll be competitions to add more, but getting these guys out, they cross a broad spectrum of the programmability, and we'll be adding Legos that are really useful for people to add their own businesses in all of these spaces. But we are in the process of Mainnet 1, which is the first round of the Agoric chain. The first round of the Agoric chain, and the answer to when Mainnet 1 is BC883B. For the geeks out there in the room, the other developers, this is the hash of a GitHub commit that is formally named that, colloquially named release Pismo for peg stability module or something, right? Or parity stability module. And really what it is it's the release candidate for the launch of Agoric Mainnet 1. So this train is now moving, and it's going through, and I'll talk about what's in it, and then we'll talk about what the schedule is for that. So it is, of course, the Cosmos SDK with the build token, and a few additional modules like our VBank to bridge Cosmos level accounts and IBC transfer in the bank up into JavaScript objects so you can trivially use them uniformly with JavaScript for non-fungible tokens, et cetera, and semi-fungible tokens, currencies built in JavaScript, et cetera. The Agoric JavaScript VM, so this will be the first launch of the Agoric JavaScript VM for hardened JavaScript with all the checkpointing and restart and all that kind of stuff. The Zoe smart contract platform that provides offer safety, we've talked about that elsewhere, these features about it to reduce risk, to make it easy to build components and put them all together. And then finally, the interprotocol. Now, this talk, I'm mostly not going to talk about the interprotocol. Zucky and I have a session about that on Wednesday, to make sure not to miss it. But that is the interstable token. This is the stable token that is built using these same frameworks. Several of the components in IST and in the interprotocol are being used by third parties. And so we've got a particular release that will be going out, and we'll talk about that in the future. Okay, but it'll be included. Oh, no, how'd that get in there? Never mind. I'm going to talk about back to those crypto hashes. So what happens from here, right? We're now in that engineering phase where the train of releases started leaving the station. You've got functional complete, passes test, all that sort of thing. And now one of the cool things about using the most common programming language with standard development tools and all that sort of stuff is all the standard practices and tools work. So we have performance engineering, we've got profiling that gives us breakdown and details of where time is being taken in various transactions. We've got lots of metrics on all of our data centers and multiple chains up and multiple test nets up for different purposes with flame graphs to look at where all the time is being taken of contracts on chain or of systems systems that we're running or of particular test configurations using standard testing tools, right? The ability to do the normal engineering that millions of developers are used to doing in large-scale service stuff is just amazing. And so we're now in that process of going through, and it goes all the way through to testing our offer model on hardware like ledgers, where this is sort of the entirely readable and understandable worst case, and we're working with others in the community to build up what's called sign mode textual to make this experience and the Kepler and other wallet systems experience of fancy, interesting, complex offers and exchanges involving NFTs or other stuff, to make all of that much more understandable to normal humans just trying to get their job done. So very cool stuff. Whoops. Where we're at is we've selected the economic committee. This is for the interstable token, and they're getting to work on what are the assets for the initial launch, what are the assets for collateral in the CDP launch, that sort of thing. We've got the release candidate running on DevNet. You can all go and poke and prod at it. We've got additional test nets that for validators to work on and for us doing perf and other system characterization. And we're in the midst of a couple of weeks of functional and security testing, right? Not just QA, but serious abuse by high-end product security experts out of the Web 2 space that are really good at this sort of thing. And there will be elements that we will then transition to that are not Agoric doing, but rather that are the community. We've done a lot of growing in not just the community, but the decentralization of it. They are heavily involved, the validators are heavily involved in the release process, and so they'll be going through a rehearsal, for example, to upgrade from the current live Ag0 chain that was launched actually just before last Cosmoverse, up to the core engine that has all the JavaScript running in it. And so this train is in progress, and then there will be the votes to turn on IST, decide what collaterals there are, and so forth. So this will take over the span of a couple of weeks. If there are no show-stopping surprises, that puts this launch in the third week of October. So we're real close. The train is moving. It's going to keep ticking along. And we will deal with minor crises as they arise, and we'll let people know if there is anything more than that. Right? So we're very excited about that. So how can you get involved? Well, if you're a validator, there's going to be votes. You've already seen these releases come out. You already know there are test nets. Your guys are the ones that then bring it up and test it and make sure it's real, get ready to vote and decide on various parameters, all those kinds of things. If you're a developer, there are workshops happening right now, and there are more. They're quite worth it. Many of those businesses that are setting up to launch on Mainnet, once we get past this Mainnet 1, those started as bounties, they started as projects, and they leverage our components, and they've contributed back components that others have used. So it's a very exciting interaction that really ties into the growing component community that will be the primary bridge or the significant bridge to these millions of developers into the cryptoverse, is being able to build and program the way they used to. And then finally, if you're a Cosmos zone, I mentioned interstable token and interprotocol, IST. And that will be coming out. That will be launching in this Mainnet 1 release. We're going to talk a bunch more about it later, but several of you know about it. I know I'm excited about it. I'm really excited not just to see the first real production contracts in this hardened JavaScript, but also to have a stable token that is really focused on unlocking the asset value of the interchain. And so come talk to us at the booth. Come give questions that will be answered for answering in the fireside chat Zaki and I have on interstable token. And let's talk about how we can bridge IST to your zone. So, thank you all very much. I'm Dean Tribble for Agoric, and I look forward to talking to you guys in the rest of the conference.